Picture this. It's the witching hour in a lively college dorm where dreams and deadlines collide. A persistent alarm clock echoes through the halls, beeping relentlessly like a cry for help that no one answers. But when her roommate finally investigates, the room is eerily empty. The bed, untouched. Her purse, keys, and wallet, all left behind, as if she stepped out for a moment and never returned. This isn't the plot of a thriller movie. It's the real-life nightmare of Dianne Abbuhl, a bright 24-year-old University of Arizona student who vanished without a trace in 1988. Her skeletal remains turned up weeks later in the brutal Arizona desert, but her killer? Still out there, walking free after more than 3 decades. If you are obsessed with cold cases that twist your mind and chill your spine, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown, and let's peel back the layers of one of Tucson's most baffling, unsolved mysteries. Buckle up. This story will keep you guessing until the very end.
The following video is created for educational and awareness purposes only. Our goal is to revisit unsolved criminal cases and keep their stories alive, in hopes that renewed attention may one day help bring answers, or even justice. We do not intend to accuse, defame, or spread misinformation about anyone involved. All information is based on publicly available sources and media reports.
Let's set the stage in the vibrant heart of Tucson, Arizona, during the late 1980s, a time when college life buzzed with energy, from packed lecture halls to impromptu gatherings under the desert stars. The University of Arizona, or U of A as locals call it, was a hub for ambitious young minds like Dianne Abbuhl. At 24 years old, Dianne was no ordinary student. She was a dedicated accounting major with a bright future ahead. Described by those who knew her as pretty, with her blonde hair and engaging smile, she lived in on-campus housing at 1717 East Speedway Boulevard, a typical dorm setup where friendships formed and secrets sometimes whispered in the dead of night.
Dianne was deeply immersed in her studies, balancing coursework with the social world of campus life. She navigated the usual stresses of young adulthood, exams, part-time jobs perhaps, and yes, the complexities of personal relationships that can sometimes turn turbulent. Friends painted her as active and involved, someone who enjoyed the community vibe but also valued her independence. Little did anyone know that on the night of September 8, 1988, her world would shatter in the most inexplicable way. It was around 1:30 a.m. when a neighbor caught the last confirmed glimpse of Dianne alive, right there in her dorm room. The hours ticked by unnoticed at first, but come morning, an unsettling sound pierced the quiet, the relentless beeping of her alarm clock, blaring on, like a distress signal from an empty void. Her roommate, probably groggy from sleep, finally stirred and went to check. What she found, or rather didn't find, sent chills through the building. Dianne was gone, vanished, disappeared into thin air.
Now, let's dissect the scene inside that dorm room, because it's here where the mystery truly begins to unfold in all its perplexing glory. The bed was undisturbed, perfectly made as if no one had even sat on it that night, clear evidence she hadn't gone to sleep. Scattered around were all her personal belongings, items no one in their right mind would leave behind if planning to step out voluntarily.
her purse bulging with essentials, her wallet stuffed with cash and cards, her keys dangling from a hook, her identification documents, her checkbook, everything that anchored her to her daily life. It was as though she'd been interrupted mid-thought, perhaps in the midst of getting ready or chatting with someone, and then, poof, gone.
There were no telltale signs of a violent intrusion, no shattered windows, no forced locks on the door, no furniture upended in a struggle. The room remained eerily calm, almost too perfect, suggesting that whatever happened, it unfolded without the chaos of resistance. This lack of overt evidence baffled everyone from the start. Had Dianne left willingly, perhaps enticed by a late-night invitation? Or was she coerced through deception, persuasion, or even a familiar face that masked darker intentions? Investigators later theorized that the perpetrator might have relied on trust or trickery to orchestrate a quiet exit, avoiding any noise that could alert neighbors in the thin-walled dorm.
In those frantic first moments, Diane's friends and family sprang into action. They contacted the U of A campus police, who in turn looped in local authorities. A missing person report was filed swiftly, but the ambiguity of the scene made it hard to classify immediately as foul play. Yet the red flags were waving high. A young woman missing, all vitals left behind, no note, no explanation. It screamed of something sinister lurking beneath the surface. As the sun rose over Tucson that day, a search began that would stretch into weeks, months, and eventually years, leaving a trail of unanswered questions in its wake. As the investigation kicked into high gear, whispers and leads started pouring in from Diane's circle of friends and acquaintances. One name rose above the rest, casting a long, dark shadow over the case: Doug. This wasn't just a casual acquaintance. Doug was romantically linked to Dianne, and their connection was fraught with the kind of tension that true crime stories are made of. Rewind to the evening before her disappearance, September 7th, 1988. Dianne was out unwinding at the Bum Steer Bar, a popular spot at 1910 North Stone Avenue, known for its lively atmosphere and mix of locals and students. Witnesses placed her there in the company of Doug, sharing drinks and conversation amid the hum of laughter and clinking glasses. But beneath the surface, things weren't as rosy as they seemed. Friends confided to police that Dianne had been trying to distance herself from him in the weeks leading up. She wanted to break things off, to move on with her life and focus on her studies. Doug, however, reportedly didn't take it well. Obsession crept in, that dangerous escalation where rejection fuels fixation, potentially tipping into violence. But who was this Doug, really? The details investigators gathered were frustratingly sparse, turning him into a phantom at the center of the probe. He was described as tall, perhaps imposing in stature, driving a red truck adorned with New York license plates, an out-of-towner detail that raised eyebrows. Doug claimed he was in Tucson visiting his brother, a man named Dave, but skeptics questioned the plausibility.
Why drive all the way from New York for a mere visit? It seemed like a convenient story, one that could mask ulterior motives.
In a bid to unmask him, police released composite sketches based on witness descriptions from the bar, plastering them in local newspapers throughout 1988. These drawings aimed to jog memories, but opinions varied on their accuracy. Some said they captured a likeness. Others noted they fell short, perhaps due to the dim lighting of the bar or fleeting glimpses. Despite multiple people reportedly seeing Doug that night, no solid identification emerged. He had no known last name in the records, no address, no ties that police could trace through databases of the era. U of A campus police and detectives from the Pima County Sheriff's Office pursued every angle, interviewing bar patrons, scouring vehicle records for that red truck, even checking with New York authorities for any leads on a Doug with a brother Dave. But it was like chasing smoke. He evaporated from the narrative after Dianne's vanishing, leaving investigators to wonder, was Doug the architect of her fate? An accomplice in a larger scheme? Or merely a red herring? An unfortunate coincidence in a web of misfortune? His elusiveness turned him into the case's biggest cipher, a person of interest who slipped through the net, fueling speculation for decades.
Weeks dragged on with no breakthroughs, each day eroding the fragile hope that Dianne might still be alive. Families clung to possibilities, maybe a runaway scenario or an accident, but deep down, fear gnawed at them. Then, on October 13, 1988, exactly 5 weeks after her disappearance, that hope shattered irrevocably. A group of hunters out in the remote wilderness northwest of Tucson stumbled upon something horrifying. Skeletal remains scattered across the parched earth. The location was telling, near the intersection of North Sondario Road and West Picture Rocks Road in the desolate Avra Valley. This wasn't some nearby park or urban alley. It was a rugged, isolated stretch of desert, about 25 miles from Dianne's dorm, far beyond what she could have traversed on foot or without transportation. Her mother, Dianne Abbuhl, put it starkly. It was impossible for her to get there alone. The area, characterized by endless open sands, sparse vegetation, and the distant hum of Interstate 10 just 3 to 5 minutes away, had a grim reputation. It was a known dumping ground for bodies, a place where perpetrators sought to bury their secrets under the relentless sun.
The remains were in an advanced state of decomposition, reduced to bones by the harsh environmental factors, scorching heat by day, freezing cold by night, and scavenging animals. This degradation posed massive challenges for forensics. Determining the exact cause of death proved elusive, as soft tissues that might hold clues, like wounds or toxins, had long since vanished. Identification wasn't immediate, but dental records eventually confirmed the worst. It was Dianne. The placement of her body spoke volumes about the killer's mindset. This wasn't a panicked disposal. It suggested calculation, a deliberate choice of a remote site to minimize the chances of quick discovery. Why here? Perhaps familiarity with the area, or a cold strategy to let nature erase evidence.
The discovery pivoted the case from a missing person inquiry to a full-blown homicide investigation. But with the body so compromised, leads were scarce. It was a heartbreaking blow, transforming vague worry into concrete grief for her loved ones.
With the body found, but the perpetrator at large, the investigation hit a series of insurmountable walls. This was the late 1980s, an era before the digital revolution transformed policing. No widespread DNA databases, no advanced surveillance cameras blanketing campuses, no cell phone pings to trace movements. What they had were witness statements, that elusive Doug lead, and a crime scene eroded by time and elements. The lack of a concrete identity for Doug compounded everything. Despite exhaustive efforts, re-interviewing bar witnesses, cross-checking vehicle registrations, even public appeals, he remained a ghost. As months turned to years, the case inevitably cooled, slipping into the limbo of unsolved files that plagued departments nationwide. Periodic reviews occurred. Detectives would pull the folder, pore over notes, perhaps chase a new tip from a cold call. But time is the enemy in cold cases. Witnesses relocate, memories fade into unreliability, key figures pass away without sharing what they knew.
Imagine the toll. Families waiting for closure that never comes. Investigators haunted by the what-ifs. What if tech had been better? What if one more interview had cracked it? Dianne's story became one of Tucson's quiet tragedies, a footnote in criminal annals. Yet it lingered in the collective memory, a reminder of justice's fragility. But cold cases don't stay frozen forever. Flash forward to the mid-2020s, specifically October 2024, when the Pima County Sheriff's Office announced a renewed examination of Dianne's file. This wasn't random. It was fueled by leaps in forensic science that could rewrite old stories. At the forefront, advances in DNA technology and investigative genealogy. Consider this: Dianne was last seen in a black dress. If that garment was recovered from the scene or her remains and properly stored, crucial as DNA degrades over time, it might harbor trace evidence like sweat stains, skin cells, or seminal fluid from her attacker. Modern labs can extract these, sequence the genetic profile, and upload it to genealogy databases. From there, building family trees could lead straight to Doug or relatives, narrowing the suspect pool dramatically.
Moreover, if Doug or anyone connected has a criminal record since 1988, their DNA might already be in CODIS, the national database for offenders. Time also shifts human dynamics. Guilt festers, secrets burden, loyalties erode. PCSO is appealing to the public. Anyone who knew Dianne in late 80s Tucson, step forward. Any small thing, they say, could be the key. This revival isn't just procedural, it's a vow to victims. We remember, we persist.
Beyond the forensics and timelines, this is profoundly a human story. Dianne wasn't just a case file. She was a vibrant soul, a daughter whose absence left an indelible void. Her mother, Dorothy Abbuhl, encapsulated the enduring pain. You don't get over it, but you learn to live with it and go on. Words that resonate with anyone who's lost someone to senseless violence. To honor her, the University of Arizona established the Dianne Abbuhl Memorial Scholarship, aiding accounting students in pursuing the dreams she cherished. It's a living tribute, ensuring her passion inspires generations. The ripple effects of such cases are vast. Grief compounds, families fracture under speculation, communities grapple with fear. Yet through advocacy, public awareness, and the unyielding push for answers, we combat forgetting. Dianne's legacy?
a poignant call to cherish life and seek justice relentlessly.
Even amid renewal, enigmas persist. Who was Doug? Perpetrator, pawn, or peripheral? How did Dianne exit without turmoil? Betrayal of trust? What precise horrors unfolded? Solo or conspired? Why that desert grave? Insider knowledge? These queries fuel the fire. With innovation and resolve, truth may emerge, offering peace at last. Thanks for diving deep with me into the Dianne Abbuhl enigma. If this gripped you, like, subscribe, bell on. Don't miss the next cold case breakdown. Drop theories and comments. Is Doug still out there? Stay vigilant, stay curious. Peace out.